5 Live Formula One.
Hello and welcome to Lusail International Circuit in Qatar. We're about 30 kilometres north of the capital city, Doha. And the sun has set here, but it is still toasty warm, 32 degrees air temperature. And the track has been lit up ahead of this evening's sprint race. It's the Australian rookie driver for McLaren, Oscar Piastri, on pole this evening. But unfortunately for him, all attention is on Max Verstappen, the two-time world champion, looking to take his third title this evening. He'll start from third on the grid. We're not used to saying that, but if he finishes in the top 6, it's almost certain that he will be crowned a 3-time world champion this evening. Joining me for the sprint race is our lead commentator Harry Benjamin, racing driver Alex Brundle, and the BBC's chief F1 writer Andrew Benson. Alex Brundle, it seems crazy to think that just over 7 months ago Max Verstappen won the first race of the season, and here we are in October. And he could win it this evening on a Saturday at the end of a sprint race. It doesn't seem almost right. It feels like it needs the pomp and ceremony of a Grand Prix. But I tell you what, I've just come off the grid. There's a lot of pomp and ceremony out there, a lot of attention around Max Verstappen. How impressed are you by him? And do you reckon it's going to happen this evening?
An incredibly impressive season, of course, by Max Verstappen. He's got the opportunity to join a very illustrious club. Jack Brabham, Jackie Stewart, Niki Lauda, Nelson Piquet, and none other than Ayrton Senna, 3 times World Championship winners. But he's got to get it done today. Inside that top 6 is all he needs.
Oh, well, it seems easy, doesn't it? But he's been performing brilliantly all season long, and people worry that perhaps a sprint isn't where he should win the championship. It should be a Grand Prix, but I think he doesn't mind either way. Harry Benjamin, it's been an interesting weekend, hasn't it? We've had a schedule change today with some worries about tyres, maybe some damage that might be incurred out on track. It's such a challenging track here, and as I said, it's still 32 degrees here. We've had wind to deal with, we've had sand, we've had track limits. It's been all go, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has. We thought it'd be a straightforward weekend, but already with a sprint, you only get one practice session and then you're thrown into Grand Prix qualifying on the Friday. And then, of course, as you said, we had that additional familiarity session for the tyres that were having some safety issues. We're really not sure how this one's going to turn out, but it does look likely that Max Verstappen will clinch his third world title, which will come as sweet words to his boss, Christian Horner. I think, Rosanna, you found him.
Well, Christian, what a special evening this evening could be. Have you spent much time with Max today? How is he feeling?
Well, first of all, congratulations. I had no idea. So, very great news.
Thank you. My big tummy's growing, yes.
Exactly. So, look, I mean, it's a big race for us. It's a Saturday night, and hopefully we can put on... It's not just about the 3 points tonight. It's about trying to have a good race.
And how are you feeling, more importantly, as well? 2 drivers in different positions.
Yeah, look, I mean, we're looking forward to it, and to see Max hopefully crowned as a world champion for the 3rd time will be a very big moment for the whole team.
Is it different today compared to the other days that he's won his 2 championships?
Slightly less nerve-wracking today.
At least you know he can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Good luck. Thank you.
Good to hear from Christian Horner. Always sounds cool, calm and relaxed on the grid. And we know it's a formality for Verstappen to get this title, Alex, but he's starting from 3rd. What do you think's possible for him? Is it going to be an easy slam dunk on lap 1 for him to get up into the lead?
Well, he had considerably better pace, as he has done all year throughout the race distances, than McLaren back in Suzuka. He should be able to make his way through. The question is, will he risk it? Will he take the points, or will he want to take his championship victory with a win this Saturday evening?
Of course, this is the sprint race, so only 19 laps. Can Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris work together, maybe? 2 versus 1. Max Verstappen up there alone with Sergio Perez down in P8. So teammates separated when it comes to Red Bull, but teammates very much together on that front row. McLaren, do they need to be careful that their teammates might come together this evening, Harry?
Well, they have come together in the past. Only slight touches, I think, back to Monza, wasn't it? The Italian Grand Prix. They got rather a little bit too close to comfort, and team principal Andrea Stella wasn't particularly happy with that. They are fighting for a team effort. I mean, you think where they started this year in Bahrain, 17th place finish and a DNF, to now getting their first front row since 2012. I think they've got to play the team game here. A couple of weeks ago in Japan, it was Piastri who actually got the better start off the the front row when he was alongside Max Verstappen. Verstappen had to come and clear him off, and that allowed Norris to swing round the outside. So Piastri's good at his starts, but I think teamwork is the name of the game today for the two McLarens.
And it is 19 laps. Very quickly, Andrew Benson, do we need to be worried about these tyres then? I know Pirelli are concerned that they won't go further than 20 laps, but it's pretty close to call, isn't it?
Well, they've obviously got some serious concerns, Rosanna. In theory, the sprint race should be short enough to not stop to prevent any issues arising, but let's wait and see.
Oh, that's a good way of looking at things. Well, we are on to the formation lap for this sprint race here in Qatar, Harry.
Yeah, they will be making their way around before they line up onto the grid. This 5.4 kilometre, 3.3 mile track. And this is how that grid looks. Oscar Piastri starts from the P1 position. Lando Norris is alongside him, makes it an all McLaren front row for the first time since 2012. Max Verstappen starts third, but he needs to finish at least sixth to be a world champion, regardless of where teammate Sergio Perez finishes. He's in front of Russell, and Sainz rounds out the top five. Then it's Leclerc in sixth. Hulkenberg is seventh, continues his fine form in qualifying. Perez needs a top three finish at the very least to prevent his teammate from taking the title today. He goes from 8 in front of Alonso, and Ocon rounds out the top 10. Then it's Gasly. Hamilton didn't make it through into the top 10 shootout. He goes from 12th in front of his old teammate Bottas. Lawson back in the car for Daniel Ricciardo for the 5th time, starts 14th in front of Joe. That's the top 15. Then it's Stroll, Albon, Tsunoda, Magnussen and Sargent, the 20 drivers who will line up on this grid. 16 turns, 6 to the left, 10 to the right, coming towards the end of this formation lap now. Alex, what have they been doing on this lap?
Well, a free choice of tyres is what they've been doing before it. Obviously, for the 19 laps of this 100-kilometre sprint race, Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris, both on the medium, as is Max Verstappen. The first car on the soft is the Mercedes of George Russell, sitting in 4th place. So expect him to be right on it off the line. Both Ferraris also going for the soft. Hulkenberg and Perez on the medium, Fernando Alonso and Ocon on the soft to round out the top 10. They'll be building temperature and pressure into those tyres as best they can, but I can tell you the tyre engineers are going to be watching this one from behind a Pirelli branded pillow, because they're going to go to the full distance that theoretically these tyres may be able to, as teams watch on the pit wall.
Sargent, the last of our 20 drivers, making his way through turns 13 and 14 now, as the two McLarens, Rosanna, already onto the grid.
Yeah, already in place nearly for Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. I'm not expecting much action in the pit lane, but given what Alex has just said about the tyre life, we could see teams thinking it necessary to come in and switch tyres just to make sure their drivers make it to the checkered flag. This is going to be an interesting 19 laps, guys.
Yeah, the mechanics take their seats in the team garages. The lights are on here at the Losail International Circuit. We're just about 10 kilometres away from the Losail Stadium, where Argentina took the World Cup spoils last year. Can Max Verstappen be crowned a champion later today here in Qatar? A little bit of a long time to wait, though, for the two McLarens, who are already just sitting there losing tyre temp.
The field in general were tardy off the line and are being very slow to take up their formation lap positions. The last car on the grid, the Golf liveried Williams of Logan Sargent, is just rolling into his position now. We finally have a green flag at the back.
Green flag at the back is a 370-metre dash from pole to turn 1. Piastri in the Papaya McLaren is in P1. Alongside him is his teammate Lando Norris. Max Verstappen going for the title is third. It's lights out for the Qatar sprint, and it's a decent start from Oscar Piastri. Norris struggles and gets swamped immediately by Russell, by Sainz. Verstappen falling back through the field. It's been a mega start from Sainz down the inside of the Scarlet Red Ferrari. He's almost up into second, and they come out of turn 1, but Russell will have the inside line in the all-black Mercedes. Russell slots into second. There's carnage in the background. There's an AlphaTauri off into the gravel, but Piastri leads out of turns 1, 2 and 3. Then comes Russell, then Sainz. Verstappen has got a little bit clouded coming out of turn 1 as it starts to settle down.
There was a huge shimmy for the Red Bull of Max Verstappen right in the middle of turn 1. He's now under pressure from the Papaya McLaren of Lando Norris, and continued pressure. No, just escaping away. Such a big moment, though, in the background for one of the AlphaTauris, and it looks like it may be Liam Lawson who was off in turn 3.
Yeah, Lawson has fallen all the way down to the back of the timing screens. We haven't quite seen how it happened in full, but as it starts to concertina up, they're coming through the middle sector now, turn 7, 8, 9, then the left-hander of 10, and it is Liam Lawson. Alex, you're absolutely spot on. He is stuck in the gravel.
Yeah, gravel strewn around that AlphaTauri. The safety car has been deployed, and he is absolutely beached. The engine lost, and the car looking very much out of the race proper.
Safety car then, before we even reach the end of lap 1 of only 19 laps. This is the sprint race here in Qatar. 4 of 6 sprint races Formula 1 will have this season, and the Aston Martin safety car ready and waiting in turn 1 to greet Oscar Piastri, who managed to get away well from P1. Russell second, Sainz third, Leclerc, Verstappen the top 5, Norris, Alonso, Ocon, Hülkenberg, Perez the top 10. Then comes Gasly, Hamilton, Bottas, Stroll, Magnussen the top 15, Joe, Albon, Sargent, Tsunoda and Lawson out of this race.
Reviewing the start, Lando Norris got a terrible getaway from the dirty side, very much a delta between the dirty side and the clean side, and he was actually the driver who balked Max Verstappen on the apex of turn 1. Verstappen made a move up the inside of the Papaya McLaren, and the two Ferraris duelled further up the field behind the silver Mercedes of George Russell. Further back in the field, it was Liam Lawson who came to blows, but it was further round the lap. We're listening on board with Liam Lawson now, and I think he's going to get squeezed out in the middle of turn 3. Yes, as the field cut across, Liam Lawson just loses the rear of the AlphaTauri. The steering wheel spins in Lawson's hands. He overcorrects and finds himself beached in the gravel.
And Lawson getting out of that car and walking away, but that is the reason why we are under safety car conditions. It was a poor start for Norris, and that kind of affected Verstappen. Didn't get the best of starts, but then Norris just came across him going into turn 1.
Verstappen found himself on the outside of turn 1, balked by Norris, then made a very clever move to take the best line through the mid-corner of turn 2, and that is really what salvaged his start. Up ahead, the two Ferraris pushing each other out all over the curbs. It was Charles Leclerc on the inside, shoveling his teammate wide, and sparks flew from the rear of the second Ferrari, the 55 Ferrari, as he bounced over the outside curbs.
Hamilton, who started in 12th, also got very close to the back of Perez as they came into turn 1, had to take a sudden manoeuvre and avoid hitting the back of Perez. Perez in 10th, just in front of Gasly, then Hamilton in 12th, so Hamilton not able to make too much pace up in that half a lap we got really under safety car conditions. But the safety car has peeled in. Green flag racing about to ensue. Piastri backs the field up, and he has put his foot to the floor and has gone straight away under the lights round the final corner. We're back racing in the Qatar sprint. It's Piastri, Russell, Sainz, Leclerc, Verstappen the top 5 as they weave left and right down the main straight, the main overtaking point of this track. And Alonso in the Aston Martin is going side by side with Norris down into turn 1. Alonso down the inside of Norris, but Norris carries more speed round the outside and appears still in front of the Spaniards. That's the battle for 6th and 7th.
Not quite the concerted effort down the inside for the green Aston Martin that Fernando Alonso was looking for, but he's looking again down the inside of the Papaya McLaren, and again denied by Norris.
Getting onto the dirty side of the track as well for Alonso, kicks the dust up in his own face, and he's still trying it though round the outside, but a move for the lead going on. Russell managing to get through on Piastri. Russell takes the lead on lap 3 of the Qatar sprint. He managed to catch up to Piastri, make the move, and has got through him. Piastri now having to look at his mirrors because Sainz to the Ferrari is all over the back of him.
Russell really pouncing there on Piastri. Surely a mistake by the Australian driver. He seemed to be suddenly in front. And listening then on board with George Russell, who's going to lunge to the inside of the hairpin left of turn 6. Extremely late lunge from George Russell.
Big move. Come on.
It certainly was a big move, and very brave on the brakes from the red sidewalled soft tyre shod Mercedes, which appeared to have more purchase in the braking zone. A spin then in the background while all of that was going on for the Williams of Logan Sargent.
That was the last thing he needed. Sargent losing it all on his own as well as he spears into the gravel, and that has brought out another safety car. So we haven't even completed 4 laps and we've had 2 safety cars Qatar. Sargent out of this sprint. He gets out of his Williams car, which is beached in the gravel. He puts the steering wheel back in. Good to see him walking away, but that was the last thing he needed. Williams are giving him till the end of the season, but targets to reach, and he's not going to reach any if he doesn't reach the checkered flag. He'll get another go in the Grand Prix tomorrow. Safety car conditions here in the sprint in Qatar. Russell leads Piastri, Sainz, Leclerc, Verstappen the top 5, Rosanna.
Yeah, and that move from George Russell was a big one, as he said on team radio. But of course, he was on that soft tyre, the red tyre, making light work of the move on Oscar Piastri, who started this sprint on the medium tyre. And I do worry for Oscar Piastri and the McLaren on the next restart when this safety car clears, because the Ferraris are going to be breathing down his neck on those soft tyres as well. So will Oscar Piastri become a bit of a sitting duck in the next couple of laps?
Totally agree, Rosanna. He could well be under pressure. It was very, very brave stuff, using the extra grip and purchase from George Russell on that soft compound tyre. And with every lap we undertake under the safety car here, of course we're reducing the green flag laps to the end of the race. There'll be less and less degradation on that soft compound tyre, moving the race more and more towards that strategy.
It was a send and a half from George Russell, but while that was going on, Alonso and Norris were sparring as well. This had already been going on for a couple of corners. This is the sound of Alonso trying to make his way round the inside of Norris, and as one McLaren got overtaken, the other was putting up a staunch defence.
Same difference, isn't it, between the tyre compounds. Fernando Alonso making good work with that red-walled soft tyre, and it was Lando Norris under pressure, and then suddenly Fernando Alonso under pressure and losing out to the Alpine of Esteban Ocon, who managed to make it around the outside of turn 8 there absolutely brilliantly.
Yeah, really optimistic move from Ocon there, but under safety car conditions then Russell leads Piastri, Sainz, Leclerc, Verstappen the top 5 at the moment as it currently stands. Verstappen, if he finishes there, he would be world champion. Norris is 6th, then comes Ocon, Alonso, Hulkenberg, Gasly the top 10, Perez, Hamilton, Stroll, Bottas, Joe the top 15.
Position. Okay. It was a third event and we are thinking of changing the settings in case, but they should be okay. I'll let you know.
So that's Carlos Sainz on the radio complaining about a misfire, and the team replying back that it's something to do with a surge.
So two things can surge in these cars, either electrical power or fuel. I would suggest if it's a misfire, it's most likely to be fuel, and that will cause a difference in how the car feels. They should be able to change the settings of the fueling of the car to deliver better performance. Remember, they had an issue immediately as they went out back in free practice with the engine of that Ferrari on both cars. So they've obviously been battling a few issues throughout this weekend.
They certainly have. It was a rocket start from Sainz, though, on lap 1. Really made the sun shone, or the light shone here in Qatar. Of course, a night race at the Losail International Circuit. Joe was the top 15. His Piastri first.
We can see the soft cars have good grip. We know it'll come to the medium. Just keep this cool. It's going to come later in this sprint.
They'll be desperate for this sprint to get back underway again as quickly as possible, because their happy hunting ground will be later on towards lap 19 when that soft tyre moves away.
Playing the long game then. That was the radio for Oscar Piastri's McLaren. Magnussen is 16th, Albon 17th, Tsunoda 18th, and we've lost Sargent and Lawson from this race. A reminder, only the top 8 get points in the sprint. It's 8 for the win and 1 for 8th. Rosanna.
I think if I was a Pirelli engineer right now, on one side of the coin I'd be breathing a sigh of relief because the tyres are not being put through a lot of strains and stresses when it comes to the curbs out on this newly resurfaced track. But on the other side of the coin, I'd be slightly worrying about tomorrow's Grand Prix. Pirelli were telling us this morning how they were going to be monitoring how the tyres were behaving when they came into contact with the curbs during this sprint race to make a decision about tomorrow's Grand Prix. There's a potential for a mandated 3-stop race tomorrow if they aren't happy with the safety of the tyres and therefore the safety of the drivers. They're not learning what they need to be learning now that we're under safety car. It's not looking good for tomorrow's Grand Prix.
It's a fabulous point, Rosanna. They were expecting to see 19 laps full of load through those left front tyres, be able to cut them into bits and then see what it did to the tyre. They're just not going to get that information. They're going to have to make a call based around what they've seen in sprint qualifying and in free practice. So Pirelli not getting getting the info they need, and I would suggest they would then potentially trend more towards safety and security in that instance. We may well see that mandated multi-stop race tomorrow.
Exit of turn 9 is where Sargent went off, the reason for this safety car, and Williams is now being craned away behind the wall. Safety car coming to an end at the end of this lap. The sound you're hearing is Norris and his start, and it wasn't awful, but then coming into turn 1, just the rear looked so unsteady.
As soon as they get out, there's a massive amount of dust flying up. You could see the lights of the circuit shining through the amount of dust that was being kicked up by drivers offline. And as soon as Norris got offline there, he seemed to lose grip massively to the cars behind. We are having a view again of Charles Leclerc's start. That's the car that you can hear. He headed right down the inside of turn 1, which seemed to be the more beneficial strategy on the inside in the Ferrari, and then had fantastic grip through the mid-corner of turn 2, which is what gave him the opportunity to get alongside his teammate Carlos Sainz, who then shoveled him wide onto the curb in defence of that position.
Yeah, Sainz went quite deep into the corner as well, but the safety car then coming to an end, the second safety car. We're only on lap 6 of 19 for the Qatar sprint, and it is now Russell who heads the pack after making a great move on Piastri, and he's backed the field up massively, weaving left, weaving right, trying to get heat into the tyres, and then Piastri has to be caught napping a little bit from Russell, who has put his foot to the floor, and he is gone coming out of turn 13.
Napping? He caught him in hibernation down towards the final 2 or 3 corners. Russell absolutely gone on his soft compound tyres, and Piastri now under pressure from Sainz.
Sainz goes right into the back, tries to get the tow from the McLaren. DRS not yet activated. Side by side, sparks fly from the rear of the McLaren and the Ferrari. The Piastri McLaren's on the inside. Sainz trying to run the outside. He can't make it work. Has to cut back underneath. Can he get better traction? No. Has to slot in behind Piastri for now, but that's allowing Russell up the road.
Brave stuff from Piastri, who straight refuses to yield and brakes later down to the apex of turn 1, even seemingly without the grip. It's Perez under pressure in the background.
Perez under pressure from Hamilton. That's the battle over 11th spot. They came quite close into turn 1 of lap 1. Hamilton runs a little bit wide though, coming out of the corner, and has to back off slightly. Perez lives to fight another day, and Stroll now all over the back of Lewis Hamilton, and they're bringing Valtteri Bottas along for the ride too, and this is only over 11th, 12th, 13th and 14th.
Perez, of course, the Mexican driver who needs to be in the top 3 of this sprint if he's to deny Max Verstappen taking the championship home today and this evening. So Max Verstappen still on course to be the champion. The sound you can hear is Fernando Alonso charging down the outside of Esteban Ocon in the Alpine, and it looks to be a move that he's going to be able to complete. Yes, was faster, had the overspeed down the front straight, and then swept in to take the apex of turn 1.
At the end of lap 7, as we start another lap 8 for 19 for the Qatar sprint, Russell leads by 1.5 seconds to Piastri. Then comes Sainz, Leclerc and Verstappen, the top 5. If it ended like this, Verstappen would be a 3-time F1 world champion going into turn 1. Sainz looked awfully close to the back of Piastri, managed to close up right underneath into the braking zone, but couldn't make the move stick. He'll have to wait a little bit longer around this next lap. Ocon through on Alonso, but I think Alonso has managed to get back through on Esteban Ocon as well. So Alonso back into 7th, Ocon 8th, Hülkenberg holding firm in that Haas in 9th. Then comes Gasly, but only the top 8 score points in the sprint, and Verstappen needs to finish at least in 6th position to secure that 3rd World Championship title. His nearest rival, Sergio Perez, has to get a top 3 finish at the very least, but right now he's down in 11th and focused on keeping Hamilton at bay.
Yeah, it's a difficult race for Perez, who doesn't appear to have the grip at the moment. The soft tyre seeming clearly to be the most beneficial tyre, at least at this stage of the race. Still more than 10 laps to go though for all that soft tyre to move away. They won't have a whole amount of data about how quickly that's going to happen. They just haven't done the practice laps here. So it's a bit of a finger in the air guess from all of the teams as both Ferraris get very wide, throwing sparks into the air out of turn 15.
Yeah, everybody running wide over the red and white curbing there, which has a little bit of a drop-off towards the end. But now with DRS activated, the drag reduction system, the rear wing flap slides open in the DRS slot down the main straight, and for Verstappen, he makes easy work of Leclerc, takes to the inside of turn 1 and manages to get the job done. Verstappen now up into 4th, Leclerc down to 5th.
We asked ourselves, how many risks was Max Verstappen prepared to take to give a meritorious performance on what could be his championship winning day? I think we've got our answer. He wants to move his car through to the front of the field, as does Sergio Perez, who is still, though, on the defence slightly from the Alpine in 11th place of Pierre Gasly.
I think he's actually just managed to get through on Gasly, and because he's now put some daylight between himself and Hamilton, who was hounding Perez, and this is the sound of Perez.
Yeah, so this was the move then for Perez, round the outside of Gasly. Gasly then having a go back at him down towards turn 4. So Perez making that move the opposite way round to the moves we've seen it with regards to the tyre strategy. Perez on the medium, making the move on Gasly on the soft. Is that our crossover point?
Quite possibly. I will just say the timing screens are lighting up with track limits deletions. We've seen this before. Think back to Austria this year, where we had 47 track limit deletions in qualifying for the Grand Prix, 83 in the race. We've had 22 in qualifying here on the Friday, 31 in the sprint shootout earlier today. But with 10 laps to go then, Verstappen's eyeing up another move.
Soft runner starting to struggle now. This race is going to come back to us.
And as Piastri gets told about the strategy, unfortunately for Sainz, he loses a position to Verstappen, who is now up into the top 3. Sainz down to 4th and is having to defend hard from Leclerc behind.
You can see both Ferraris on that soft tyre now looking ponderous in their direction change. They're now starting to just take that moment extra to turn into the corner as the driver turns the steering wheel. And that indeed could well be the crossover for Piastri. The question is, has he lost too much ground? And I think the answer is no. He's still within 8/10 of George Russell at the front of the field.
And that was over a second not too long ago. He also has the fastest lap. It was Leclerc defending hard from Norris in the McLaren, who was hounding that Ferrari hard. And that was the sound of Lewis Hamilton up through the gears, down the main straight, making light work on Gasly.
Checking in with the midfield. Sergio Perez making his way through.
We're just waiting for 5 Live to join us. Apologies for a little bit of silence. A warm welcome to listeners on BBC Radio 5 Live to Qatar at the Lusail International Circuit for the Qatar Sprint, and there's a huge crash just as you join us. It involves Sergio Perez and I think Nico Hülkenberg in the Haas. Piastri has also regained the lead. It's all happened, I'm afraid, in the last few moments. This is the sprint. This is a race where Max Verstappen can become world champion. All he needs to do is finish at least 6th, and right now he is in 3rd place on course for his 3rd world title. Out of this race though, spinning out into the gravel is Perez. There's an Alpine involved as well. I think it's Ocon, but Perez is looking absolutely demoralised, and because Perez is now out of this race, Max Verstappen officially becomes a 3-time world champion no matter what happens in this race. Piastri leads Russell, Verstappen, Sainz and Norris is the top 5 as the safety car comes out. Alongside me is the racing driver Alex Brundle, and Alex, it's all happened in about a minute.
Such excitement. You join us with the moment where the Formula One World Championship for drivers was decided. Sergio Perez making contact with an Alpine of Esteban Ocon out of the sprint here in Qatar, and Max Verstappen sitting up in 3rd position, sitting pretty, but Sergio Perez was the man who had it all to do and was the man who hasn't done it at this stage of the contest.
There were so many manoeuvres going on over the course of the last couple of minutes. Piastri managing to retake the lead from Russell, and we're just seeing how the incident happened with Perez, Hülkenberg and Ocon, and it was a 3-1, Alex.
It definitely was. It was Ocon who came across on Hülkenberg, catches the front of the Haas, and then is turned right across the road into Perez.
That was Hülkenberg just saying they sandwiched me. Hülkenberg not happy with that. This is the sound on board the Mexican Red Bull car. So he's behind the Alpine and the Haas. It's the Alpine on the inside, the Haas in the middle, and Perez on the outside.
Perez taken clean out of the race, and through no fault of his own, it must be said. He was minding his own business on the outside. Nico Hülkenberg trying to roll round the outside in his house, cuts back. Ocon trying to squeeze him, then the tiniest bit of contact becomes big contact with the side of the Red Bull, who is over to the right-hand side of both dueling cars.
Perez watches on, hands up in the air. He's out of the car, which is good to see, but he was the only man who could prevent Max Verstappen from taking the title today, at least. He could have taken it till Sunday. That is not happening.
So safety car, staying.
We need a box.
Staying out, stay out.
I think we need, yes, I hear you, but I think we need a box. Tyres are done. The medium guys are just going to overtake us. Whoever's on medium is just going to overtake us. Really think we need a box. Sure, cool.
So staying out, staying out. Yeah, there'll be no points at all if we stop.
That's George Russell then pleading with the team for a pit stop. Should remind you, this is a sprint race. Pit stops are not mandatory.
No, 19-lap sprint race. We've seen 2 safety cars already throughout this contest and a mixture of tyres. Oscar Piastri started the race on the medium compound tyre. George Russell, who we just heard from, is on the soft compound, and we have seen Oscar Piastri, while all of that commotion was going on with Sergio Perez, so critical for the championship, make his way past George Russell. So he now, in his Papaya McLaren, leads this sprint behind the safety car. Debates now as the soft tyre moves away, the soft, more quicker but more aggressively degrading tyre moves away from those drivers, whether they need to box with 13 laps of this 19-lap sprint race completed.
Well, if you joined us on BBC Radio 5 Live, you certainly picked a time to do it. On lap 13 now of 19 of this sprint race under safety car conditions, Piastri leads Russell, leads Verstappen, who when he crosses the line will be the 2023 F1 World Champion, as his teammate Sergio Perez is out of the race. Rosanna, what a last couple of laps.
It's been pretty frenetic, hasn't it? Yeah, down here in the pit lane and paddock, there was a huge cheer, McLaren.
I started to see some surface damage. Look up.
I know, mate, I'm trying, but Piastri is pulling.
Forget about Piastri, we need to get to the end. I told you about this. Let it come to you. We need to get to the end.
Max Verstappen being told by his engineer Gianpiero Lambiase on the Red Bull pit wall there, they've got to get to the end. Tyres are clearly struggling. Those on the medium compounded tyre are struggling compared to the soft, Rosanna Tennant.
But also those on the soft are struggling. We've just heard from George Russell in the Mercedes, haven't we, that his tyres are gone, the soft tyre. So he's worrying about the drivers on the medium tyre behind him going to jump him. That is Max Verstappen. And meanwhile, Max Verstappen's worrying about his medium tyres because they're going off too. This is going to be a really interesting end to the sprint race. Who can hold on, or does someone have to box to make sure they make it to the end?
And that's Rosanna Tennant down in the pit lane alongside myself. Harry Benjamin in the commentary box is the racing driver, Alex Brundle. Lap 13 of 90. We knew tyres would be an issue, would be cause for concern. Did we think they'd be this much of a cause for concern?
Incredibly interesting divergence of the way the tyre is behaving. The soft tyre clean wearing away. The medium tyre, from the surface damage we heard just described to Max Verstappen over the radio, looks to be graining or breaking up in its surface. So drivers having to manage the tyre in 2 different directions. So interesting to see. Formula One drivers clamouring to go to the pit lane midway through a sprint race is not for no good reason. Expect those soft tyre runners really to suffer most through the remaining laps.
Well, either way, still with 6 Grand Prix remaining, Max Verstappen has and will win the 2023 World Championship. He matches what Michael Schumacher managed to achieve back in 2002. We've run out of words to describe Verstappen's season. Bulletproof, dominant, consistent, effortless, perhaps the most dominant ever. But there's one thing to be dominant, but to be consistently dominant, that is an achievement, and perhaps the biggest ever, not just for Max Verstappen, but for Red Bull Racing as well. The party team with their number one driver and their number one car, they do it for a third time in a row for Max Verstappen, setting records left, right and centre, Alex. Enough can't be said for what a flawless year this has been for Max Verstappen.
Utterly flawless. He came into this final race of that championship battle with 400 points, 170 points clear of the man who now walks away from the circuit dejectedly, Sergio Perez, in the same car, and nobody else has come close to him throughout this season. What a club he joins. Jack Brabham, Jackie Stewart, Niki Lauda, Nelson Piquet, the famous, the one, Ayrton Senna, three-time World Championship winners, all of them. He will be the sixth, and an absolutely fantastic and dominant season it has been to take him to that accolade. He
joins a couple of good clubs, not just the three-time champion club, but also the Saturday champion club as well. Joins the likes of Nelson Piquet, Sir Jack Brabham, Graham Hill and Keke Rosberg, who have all won F1 championships in one way or another on a Saturday, but never has an F1 World Championship been won during a sprint race. Max Verstappen has to always set a record in some way or another, and he does so once more, as he will become, once the checkered flag comes down on this 19-lap sprint race, a three-time world champion. Back on with the track action. Safety car coming to an end then on lap 14 of 19. Piastri leads Russell, leads Verstappen, and Piastri is straight away off and ahead, but he hasn't managed to lose Russell like Russell lost Piastri on the last safety car restart as they round the final corner. Piastri actually running a little bit wide as they come down the main straight. Russell won't get the effect of DRS with 5 laps to go. He'll have to use the toe. Further back in the battle for fifth, Leclerc tries to have a look down the inside of Norris going into turn one as Russell has a look down the inside of Piastri for the lead. Piastri holds on to it. Leclerc holds on and manages to get through on Norris, and has he managed to get through on his teammate Sainz as well? Sainz just about battling with Leclerc, who is his next target. Sainz fourth, Leclerc fifth, Norris sixth.
Leclerc poked the nose down the inside of Lando Norris and forced the papaya McLaren to arc wide through that first turn, and then just managed to wriggle his way through and get the throttle on. Piastri knew that was Russell's potentially only chance in the soft-shod Mercedes that now sits a second back in second place to make something of this safety car restart, because that soft tyre is going to fall away for Russell now as the final section of this race wears on.
For those who are new to a sprint race format, it has no bearing on tomorrow's Grand Prix, and only the top 8 score points. It's Piastri at the moment on for the win in front of Russell. Verstappen will come across the line in third if he can hold on to it, and he'll become a three-time champion. Then comes Sainz, Leclerc, Norris, Alonso and Gasly are your top 8.
Sure are. The sound you can hear is Charles Leclerc making his way down the inside of Lando Norris. There was slightly more straight line speed for the McLaren that pulled away on their way down the 1 kilometre straight towards turn one. Norris, though, forced to arc wide, and it was Leclerc who was up behind his teammate, but a battle then down the front straight again. Here's Max Verstappen making his way through on George Russell.
Down the inside into turn one, and the Dutchman now gets up into P2. 2.5 seconds the gap to Piastri. Could he reel in Piastri and take the sprint race win, and with it the accolades of a three-time world champion? He's now got actually a couple of seconds to try and catch up to Piastri, who I think is actually being very level-headed, having lost the lead earlier on to Russell. Didn't panic, managed to get it back, but Russell has now dropped behind Verstappen too.
It was a straight overspeed out of that final turn 16 for Max Verstappen. No DRS available, so the rear flap of the Red Bull did not open. He just had the toe, had the speed, and then had the position down towards turn one. 2.3 seconds becomes 2.2 seconds as Max Verstappen tries to close in on the Australian rookie to take the lead of the sprint.
Oscar Piastri having a brilliant season for a rookie driver. He was a Formula 3 champion, a Formula 2 champion in consecutive years, spent a year on the sidelines learning at the Alpine Formula 1 team before getting his shot with McLaren, and after a tough start for McLaren at the beginning of the season, with both cars have come on leaps and bounds, but on this occasion it's Piastri who has the upper hand over Norris, his teammate, who is down in 6th. But this is the sound of Norris with 3 laps to go, up through the gears, down the main straight, looking at the back of the red Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, who dives to the inside to defend, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Norris will have the outside line and sweeps round the slightly cambered turn 1 and is through. Norris gets in front of Leclerc, and he even tries to get down the inside of his Sainz, the Ferrari teammate, just in front. Old friends Sainz and Norris at McLaren, and Sainz though defending for his life, but in the end it's not enough, as in the next right-hander it's Norris who manages to get through on Sainz. 2 positions gained for Norris and only a couple of corners.
That McLaren is a rocket ship on the medium. He managed to line it up with the rear of Carlos Sainz's Ferrari and draft past Charles Leclerc on their way down there, on their way down to turn 1, and then manages to take the second Ferrari on the exit. But look up front, just clearing the 2-second barrier. Max Verstappen is homing in on Oscar Piastri in the same way Lando Norris is now homing in on George Russell.
Lewis Hamilton is now up into the point. He's managed to get Pierre Gasly, the Alpine driver, locking up in the middle of the lap and running wide, and that made for rather easy pickings for Hamilton. Up into 8th, Gasly down to 9th. Albon rounds out the top 10. Then it's Bottas, Tsunoda, Stroll, Joe and Magnussen. Just 15 drivers left in this sprint on lap 18 of 19, with Hülkenberg, Ocon, Perez, Sargent, Lawson all out of this one. Piastri leads and could be on for a win here.
I think Carlos is struggling.
Copy that.
And that's Charles Leclerc saying that his teammate, who is in front of him, less than half a second in front of him for 5th place, is struggling. Meanwhile, moves being done between Mercedes and Aston Martin. This is happening just behind the Ferrari squabble. It's Hamilton versus Alonso. Hamilton manages to get the move on Alonso. Hamilton up into 7th. Alonso down to 8th. And Hamilton is a man on a mission right now. He is close straight up to the back of the Ferrari of Leclerc as they head through the right-hander. Leclerc under pressure here. No wonder he's calling his team to try and let him through on Sainz, who is holding him up. Sainz runs a little bit wide. Leclerc has to go tight and deep, locks up slightly. That allows Hamilton to get right up onto the back of the gearbox for Leclerc, but Leclerc holds on for the time being.
Negotiation between the 2 Ferraris, and for good reason. Lewis Hamilton has far more grip and purchase in his Mercedes, battling over the scraps of the points all the way down to 8th in this sprint race. Can Hamilton make a move in a critical phase for Mercedes in the battle for the Constructors' Championship? Out front, gap stabilising between Piastri and Verstappen. It doesn't look like the world champion-elect is going to be able to win this one.
He's not going to be able to close in on him, I think, as we start the final lap of this race. Piastri could well be set to get his first win in Formula 1 in the form of the sprint race. Max Verstappen will be right behind him and will celebrate becoming 3 times a world champion, but the deals are not done yet. Further back in the pack, Russell and Norris are squabbling. Norris now up into 3rd as Russell continues to struggle. Hamilton through on Leclerc. Leclerc in 7th, Hamilton up to 6th, and all over the back of Carlos Sainz.
Carlos Sainz defending like a lion through the mid-corner of turn 1 and 2 as they head down towards the arcing right-hander of 4 and 5. And Hamilton looks like he just doesn't have the traction, the power delivery on the exit in the Mercedes. The Ferrari lurching away as Sainz manages to keep it ahead. But out front, Oscar Piastri has held off Max Verstappen in the way he wasn't able to last time he was in this position in a sprint race back in Spa.
First rookie to lead an F1 race in the last 10 years. First rookie to stand on the podium in the last 6 years. First rookie to take pole in a sprint race. First rookie to take take a sprint race win. He is only a couple of corners away. We need to talk about Oscar Piastri as he rounds the final corner. Piastri and the McLaren will seal the deal in the sprint, but right behind him, welcome to the three-time world champion club, Max Verstappen, Sir Jack Brabham, Jackie Stewart, Niki Lauda, Nelson Piquet, Ayrton Senna, and now Max Verstappen. He crosses the line in second, but he becomes a three-time F1 world champion. Dominance is an understatement for how Verstappen has performed this year. He has been flawless.
Absolutely flawless from Max Verstappen throughout the season, and as a star is born in the form of Oscar Piastri, taking his first time to be first across the line in this F1 sprint. A star is definitely made in the shape of Max Verstappen, who joins greats amongst the three-time World Championship club. You can hear the delight of Jos Verstappen watching on from the pit lane as the crowning moment has arrived for Max.
Well brought home, Max. You are a three-time champion. Fantastic.
Max, you are a three-time world champion. That's unbelievable, mate. Absolutely unbelievable. It's been an incredible year for you.
Yeah, unbelievable, guys. Yeah, I don't know what to say, but an incredible year. I mean, thank you for providing me with such a car. It's been a pleasure so far this year. And just want to say a big thank you to everyone here at the track, back at the factory, putting all the effort in, to be able to achieve something like this. I can't thank you all enough. And besides all the performance-related stuff, it's also just really enjoying to work with you all. That's probably even the most important at the end. So thank you very much.
Sublime words there from Max Verstappen, appreciating that it's not just him, it's also the team who took the Constructors' title last time out in Japan. Here's our sprint winner.
Nicely done, everyone. Thank you. I had a bit of a heart attack when all the soft guys went past at the start, but very, very well managed. And yes, thanks for the toys updates as well.
A star of the future already arrived in Formula One. People were bigging Piastri up before he even came into Formula One. Struggled, both McLaren drivers did at the start of the season, but my, have they come on strong.
What a head on young shoulders Oscar Piastri is. Victory in the Formula 3 Championship and then victory in the Formula 2 Championship. Now he's got the car underneath him. Now he's got an upgraded McLaren, and that feels like the first of many times he's going to head across the line first.
Max Verstappen peels up in the champion spot, and Rosanna Tenen is right there.
I certainly am, Harry. You can probably hear the music blaring out as Max Verstappen climbs out of the RB19, the car that has taken him to victory this year so many times and now has given him his third world title. The crowd are loving it. The phones are held high, and Max puts two fingers and a thumb to be precise, up to his team, who are already there with their celebratory caps on. They're embracing him, hugging him, a lot of clapping going on, everybody wanting to share in his special moment. And his car is parked on a sort of raised plinth area, and in front of it the words 2023 World Champion and number one. Well, we knew that already, didn't we?
13 Grand Prix wins, and we're not even finished with this season yet. 10 of those consecutive. Max Verstappen celebrating with everybody who is down there in Parc Fermé. He hugs his partner Kelly Piquet. Of course, her father is the man he joins in the stats as winning a championship on a Saturday. Piquet winning 83 and 81 and 87. There's a bit of contention over that, but we'll call it Saturday anyway. But smiles all around, not just for Verstappen, but for Oscar Piastri as well. Lando Norris came third, by the way, in front of Russell and Hamilton, the top five. Sainz, Leclerc, Albon managed to steal the final points in eighth. Only the top 8 scoring points in that sprint. It has no bearing on the Grand Prix tomorrow as Max Verstappen heads to the Weybridge. He celebrates with the CEO of Formula One, Stefano Domenicali, and the head of the FIA, Mohammed Ben Sulayem, there to greet him. Gloves are off as he still has to do the admin, despite being a 3-time champ, Rosanna.
Yeah, it is all go down here in Parc Fermé. So many things to remember to do. It's not just about celebrating a World Championship win. What a frenetic sprint race. Only 19 laps, but plenty of action. We had several cars DNFing. We've had safety cars. And of course, we've had a champion crowned once more. Max Verstappen, a 3-time world champion now. And we've still got another race tomorrow. Of course, the Grand Prix proper tomorrow, the Qatar Grand Prix. Hopefully you'll join us there.